there beautiful souls, Avalon here, and I've got some really yummy decks to show you. These are some of the decks that I've just been loving. I've been loving working with them. They've been giving me great readings. I've been reconnecting with them, and I've just been having a really great time with these decks. And I'm just sharing this for no specific reason. They're not seasonal decks per se. They're just decks that have really sort of grabbed my attention, stolen my heart, and made me feel really excited to work with them and to just connect and go deep and do all of that delicious, yummy stuff that we tarot readers and tarot enthusiasts love to do with our decks. So I've got some old decks, I've got some new decks, actually more new to my collection rather than new, and just got a really tasty selection at the moment of ones that have really just tickled my fancy. So they're in no specific order. I've just divided them into tarot and oracle for ease, for whatever, and let's get right into it. So the first deck that I'm going to show you is one that I have had on my wish list for the longest time, and I've got to tell you, there is nothing quite like knocking a top title off your wish list. Like, this is one that from the moment I saw it, I just thought to myself, oh, I have to have you. I think I saw it originally on Instagram and I was in love, like in love. And this is the deck that I'm talking about. It's the Ophidia Rosa Tarot by Layla and Olive. It is a matte finish deck with gilded brush gold edges, 400 GSM cardstock, and a beautiful serpent on the back. This deck stole my heart. This is a botanical deck. I'll show you just a couple of the images. This deck just grabbed my attention straight away and stole my heart. I saw it, I thought, you are stunning. There's two cards there. You are a stunning beauty. I must have you. And it does have a companion oracle deck as well, which is equally as tasty, similar theme, similar cardstock. It carries on that beautiful, beautiful artistic creation. This deck, to me, I expected it to be really enigmatic and mysterious and like woo-woo. And what I got was myself in the way. By that I mean my first draw I was expecting like lots and lots of intensity, and a lot of my own personal intensity came through, and it provided a really at the time it seemed like an obscure and even foreboding type of message. And when I took a step back and calmed my farm a little bit, I'm like, don't project, calm your farm, don't project. And then when I objectively read the cards again, it gave me a very well-rounded, very well-grounded reading that was quite wise, and it has a grandmotherly voice to me. Now, of course, our grandmothers are going to be very different one to the other. This would be the type of wisdom that I would get from, say, my Brazilian grandmother, who was very grounded, very fiery in her own way, flamboyant in her depictions, and just a really wise and enriching soul. And so that's how I feel about this deck. So this deck reminds me a little bit of my grandmother, and I like that. I like that I have a deck to remind me of someone that was so special in my life. So that is the Ophidia Rosa Tarot by Layla and Olive. The next deck is another beautiful creation, and it is the Lumina Tarot by Inner Hue. This is the backing of the deck. The Lumina Tarot, I originally got, it's very, very nice cardstock, 400 GSM cardstock. It's not borderless. It's got a subtle border. I just love the modern, edgy design of this particular deck. Now, when I originally got this deck, I was quite taken by it. I loved the quality of the deck itself. And then I looked at the images, and the images are absolutely stunning. But I dubbed it my Victoria's Secret deck because there wasn't a lot of diversity in body image in this particular deck, which is fine. It's fine, really. Each creator has their own vision, and it's important for them to honor their vision, right? So I'm not at all critiquing that. So eventually I kept on coming back to this deck. There's some sexy creatures in this deck, let me tell you. Eventually I kept on coming back to this deck until finally I got to a really good place with it. And this deck has a really fresh edge. It's got a very, very fresh voice. It's quite subjective and it's interesting, and it gets me thinking outside of the box. It's definitely not a face value type of deck. It's one that has a strong voice, a solid narrative, and it's just really gorgeous to look at and gorgeous to work with. So it's taken me a little time to sort of warm up to it, but I finally have warmed up to it, and I really look forward to using it now, and I chuckle whenever I get it out because I've had some really fun experiences with it. And you know what I mean, when you've had some fun experiences with a deck, you can't help but smile when you reach for that deck. You just can't. This is all about building your relationship with your cards and your tarot decks and things of that nature. So exciting. The next deck is an oldie but a goldie, and it is The Journey to the Hidden Realm. And this is a Julia Jeffries Barbara Moore deck. It's published by Llewellyn, and it's beautiful. It's borderless. It has a very, very ever so slight border there where the names of the cards, the suits are written, etc. The cardstock, it's old school Llewellyn, so it's not that great, but the artwork is amazing. It's amazing. This deck is like capturing images of another world. They're like stills of another world. Every time I use this deck, I feel like I'm being called to the other world. I feel like I'm being drawn in by something powerful and potent and magical. This deck, aside from it being stunningly beautiful, it photographs amazingly, and it reads like a wise crone. It reads like a wise crone. It's got an edge of fae to it, which is basically the theme that runs throughout. But when I say this, I'm talking about fae in the context of the guardians of the natural world, as in the keepers of the sacred world, as in the deep green earth keepers, the forest dwellers, etc. And I just, oh my gosh, I love this deck so much. Each card tells a story. It is non-traditional, and it just lures you in with its beauty. And if you are the type of person that likes to read intuitively, then you are going to love this deck because it will take you on a journey. And that's exactly what you want. You want a deck that can transport you out of your own mindset and into a narrative that belongs to the cards, not to any associated correspondences that you might have placed on the cards or that anyone who came before you might have placed on the cards. You want to have that experience all on your own. It's between you and the deck, and this deck does that, and I love that. So this is The Journey to the Hidden Realm, Barbara Moore, Julia Jeffries, aka the Stone Maiden, and it is beautiful. It is one of my top 10 favorite decks for sure. The next deck is the last tarot I'm going to be showing you, and it's another Llewellyn. It's another Llewellyn. It's the Greenwich Tarot by Anne Moira. This is the backing of it. It's very Yuletide, don't you think? And so the Greenwich Tarot is a deck that I've had for a little while. It's not a new deck, but it is a beautiful deck. I used this particular deck when I was creating the Ritual Tarot course for Ethany's Tarot Summer School. And I used it in meditations, I used it in photography, and I used it a little bit before and a little bit after that. More so after that, actually, because once I had started utilizing it more in depth to really connect with it, I thought it was a beautiful deck. This is the deck that I wanted to use, so I did. I found that this deck was just such a beautiful reader. It has this feminine voice, and I think it really does capture the voice of the author herself. And I think that it's so patient, it's so wise, it's so gentle, and there is a really strong pagan theme throughout this particular deck. It follows that Wheel of the Year feel. It's non-traditional in some of its aspects, and it's traditional in its other aspects. And all in all, it's just a beautiful deck that's very earth-centric. Of course, it's the Greenwich Tarot. Anne Moira is famous for writing her Green Witchcraft books and the grimoire of the Green Witch and Mansions in the Moon and things of that nature. So she's very pagan, she's very witch, and she's created a beautiful tarot deck with a great companion book. There are earthly correspondences, so there's plants and trees, etc., that have been used throughout this deck to give an extra depth, an extra meaning to the way that you read the cards, and all of that is in the guidebook. And that's something that you should really pay attention to, because this is why creators make guidebooks, because they put extra information in there to make it easier for you to then decipher. They put extra layers, keys, if you will. And hers is actually a really good one. And you can bet your bottom dollar it's a good one, because she is an author by trade and she writes a really good book. So her companion book's going to be great. So this is the Greenwich Tarot by Anne Moira, and it is a Llewellyn published deck. Next I have another Inner Hue, but we're at the Oracle portion of this particular video. So this is the Connected and Free Alchemist Oracle. And man, oh man, do I love this deck. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It thinks outside of the box. It's edgy, it's modern. I love the artwork. I really, really resonate with this artwork. Isn't that beautiful? There is a sacred geometric aspect. There is a chakra aspect. There is an animal totem aspect to this. It's just really wild and varied, and it's beautiful in its messages. The keywords are wonderful. The attributes of each of the cards are stunning. It brings forth such an empowering and positive message, and it's something that works really beautifully alongside any other deck, really, that is of an uplifting persuasion. I wouldn't necessarily pair this, for instance, with the Marielle. It just wouldn't go with it. But if it's a fresh and uplifting sort of a deck, and on its own, for readings on its own, it's very uplifting and very empowering, and that's kind of what you want from an oracle deck. You either want it to complement a tarot deck, or you want it to be able to be an astounding reader all on its own, and I think it does both of those things. Of course you would pair this with the Lumina Tarot, which is its kind of cuzzy bro, and they look lovely side by side, I must say. So Inner Hue do a great job. This is a good quality deck, 400 GSM, similar borders to the Lumina Tarot. Black matte cardstock. The cardstock of the Lumina is this symbol plus two others, so they've created a continuity there in design, and I really like that. I appreciate these little touches. So this is a beautiful deck, and it's one that many, many people love. It is the Connected and Free Alchemist Oracle by Inner Hue. Yay! Next one is a super oldie, but a goldie. This is the Gaia Oracle, and this one is by Tony Carmine Salerno, and it's published by Blue Angel. The Gaia Oracle is an oracle deck that I loved. It used to be my absolute favourite, hands down. How gorgeous is this image? I love this image. And then I kind of acquired new decks, and I started utilising different decks, and my taste in deck actually changed. What I was looking for in a deck changed. And I've also had babies since then. I've done a lot of studies since then. I've done a lot of traveling since then. And I've come back to this deck with fresh eyes, I feel. And it's always fun to revisit old favorites. And this deck is so gentle. It's so soft. Tony Carmine Salerno has a style of art that is very, very soothing. It's meant to be healing. That's his gift. That's his style. There are some people that really, really love that, and there are some people that don't. And there are some, like myself, who genuinely appreciate it, but we move in and out of that appreciation quite regularly depending on our mood and our position in the wheel of the year, for instance. So this deck, I find it to be very nurturing. I think that if you're having a difficult time, or you're working with aspects of the sacred feminine, or you're trying to nurture an aspect of yourself, this is a beautiful deck to assist you to do that. It's a great deck for path working. It's a great deck for meditation. It's a great deck for devotional works, and it's a great deck to help to coerce the sacred feminine and the gentle voice of the sacred feminine out of you in a capacity of more self-love and inner guidance and feminine empowerment. And it's something that men and women can really benefit from. It is a deck that is more geared towards those who resonate with the feminine divine, but there is no reason why a man cannot use this deck and get that same nurturing, warm hug type of sensation that you get from utilizing this oracle deck. And the last oracle deck that I'm going to show you is one that is newer to my collection. It too is one that I popped checked off the top of my list. I'm very happy that I did. This is the Cuzzy Bro to the Ophidia Rosa Tarot. This is the PIPA Botanica Oracle. Can I tell you how beautiful the backing of this is? It's like this steely grey, it's like a smoky steely grey. It's got the serpent, it's got the botanical there, and gilded edges, 400 GSM cardstock. The quality is just like, mwah, it's so delicious. So here we have it. Each plant is listed. You have a little booklet here to go with it, but each plant is listed and it has an association to go with it. And this is what I love about it. I was feeling very earth-centric when I was drawn to this deck initially, and it's been sitting there in my wish list, in my bucket of decks that I'm just dying to acquire for a good deal of time. And then I finally decided that that day was the day. I waited for it. They were a delight to deal with, Nicole from Layla and Olive. And I've got to tell you that I do not regret purchasing this. This was another deck that I also approached in that foreboding fashion. Of course, I opened both decks at the same time and gave myself a foreboding reading because I was so hyped up. I've just like been coveting these decks for the longest time, and then I went to use them and I was just like, the mood on the day was really misty and it was really rainy and I had candles going, the incense was burning. Everything felt very like moody and spooky and just delicious, really woo-woo stuff, right? And so I gave myself a reading that made me go, oh my god. And this was right before my husband was due to fly out to Cambodia, and I was like, I'm freaking myself out. And this is when you know that you're projecting. So my emotions were pretty high and I knew that I was projecting onto the deck. So I just took a step back. I was just like, calm your farm, relax, you're a professional, calm yourself, woman. And I went back and I read it in accompaniment with the tarot reading that I had done with the Ophidia Rosa Tarot, and they together meshed into a very beautiful and a very empowering message. And I have just come to really look to these decks at the moment. They are hot decks for me, both of them. They are right up there with some of my favorite decks to use right now. I'm absolutely loving working with these decks. I love the quality of the deck. I am not at all disappointed having spent the money to purchase these decks. If you have been considering this deck or these decks, just know that they are amazing in my personal eyes. They're not what I thought that they were going to be either. I've got to say this. Both of these decks, I was expecting something from them, and I definitely got what I was expecting, but then I got something else. I got a beautiful simplicity and a natural undertone to both of these decks that are just, to me, they just speak volumes. I am astounded, I'm mesmerized, I'm enamored by both of these decks. And I'm just so happy that I finally got them, and I can't believe it's taken me that long to get them. So that's it for this video. I have some Oracle, I have some Tarot. I just wanted to share some of these Oracles and Tarot decks that have really been sort of like on my radar, and I've been working with them and I've been reappreciating them in some cases and rediscovering them in other cases, and then getting to know them firsthand in two very distinct cases. So I sincerely hope that you've enjoyed this video. If you have, give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching, and much love, many blessings. Mwah! Look after yourselves. Bye.